explode.
Welcome back. Thanks for checking in. In a boring world full of everyday, boring, regular stuff, there's nothing better than something a little weird. Weird movies.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Weird girls. Best of all, weird cars. So you know the saying, good, fast, cheap, can't have all three? I found something and I got all three. Weird, local, and cheap. Had to make it mine, you only live once. So this, my friends, is a 1984 Escort diesel. 5-speed transmission, beautiful tan interior, and it's got the shape and colors that I love. Brown. It's brown. It's 2 shades of brown.
What can brown do for you?
So not only is this thing weird and kind of rare, it's also got a great backstory. This is an actual barn find. This will be the first car I've worked on pulled non-running out of some decrepit old building. Trailered it here, pushed it into the garage. I don't know anything about it. I haven't even heard it turn over yet. Let me tell you the backstory, then let's see if we can get it started. So in the 1980s, manufacturers were putting diesels into cars to sell fuel economy. In 1984, Ford decided to put this Mazda 4-cylinder diesel into the Escort. Not many were made, and it didn't sell well, so it was discontinued by 1988. This 4-cylinder Mazda engine that they chose is known for fuel economy and reliability, getting like 50 plus miles to the gallon. But check this out, putting out only a wimpy 50 horsepower. I didn't know cars came with horsepower that low. The diesel engines in the Escort were ultimately phased out due to performance issues. They weren't breaking down, they just barely moved. Never a fast car. And by 88, Ford Escort and diesel engines had divorced and split everything down the middle. Don't worry, they both still love you, it's not your fault. So I found this specific car on Facebook Marketplace, and this is what I saw. It was less than an hour away, so I loaded up my trailer, went to scoop it up. And I just had that gut feeling that this was gonna be worth it. Plus, there's not many first-gen Escorts around here, and I was looking for one to race. After flipping my first one, the guy I bought it from, Brett, he'd been driving by that building for like 15, 20 years and had no idea there was a car inside. It just looks like the forest. It had been sitting there for years. Now, the wheels that are on it now aren't original, and you can see the original wheels in the photos. They're real toothy. Small, like 14-inch wheels, off-road tires or something crazy. It was sold out of Peterborough, New Hampshire with some pretty interesting options. Check this out, New England Special, $290 something. What the heck is that? It's the two-tone sport paint, block heater, toothy tires, and the diesel engine. This thing was set up for cold weather and New England roads. Yeah, this thing is local as hell. That's really, really cool. So check it out here. We got the two-tone brown paint. So cool. And the orange stripe tape. The orange really makes those colors pop. The interior is tan. Super clean. Not even any cracks in the dash. Found the paint code plates in the glove compartment. Sport two-tone. Yeah, this thing ain't sporty at all, but that's cool. Cigarette lighter looks used. Yeah, there's some ash in the ashtray. I mean, it was 84. Of course people were smoking in here.
What do you got, a smoker's lounge in there?
Oh, yeah, people really seem to be enjoying themselves.
All right, interior checks out. Pretty complete. Let's check out the trunk. Any parts we find in the trunk usually tell a story. I'll learn a little bit about the car before I get into it. Best thing is to not find any parts, but you can already see there's some stuff in here. All right, we got a cracked piece of window seal. No big deal. Here's the missing windshield trim and fender trim. And we got a box here that looks like a brake caliper and some drum shoes. So I'm going to assume that brake system is probably open. There's going to be no fluid. Not scary. Not the end of the world. I was pulling this open to check the rear struts for rust, because that's usually where these first-gen Escorts collect water back there and they'll rust out. But what I found was the battery tray. I guess the battery's in the trunk on this model. Here we go. Here's the hold-down bar for the battery. So yeah, it makes sense. Battery tray in the back. I know where I gotta put a fresh battery. Pull up the cloth here and check on the spare tire. Cool. Original spare. We got it. And underneath, looking at a mouse house. Gross. I'm gonna do a deep clean. So now let's give the engine a looky-loo. This is a Mazda RF diesel engine that I mentioned earlier. So I don't know anything about Mazda or diesels, so I'm headed to Wikipedia for this one. From what I'm reading, this is a diesel variant of their FE engine, which is a gas engine. The glow plugs are in remote combustion chambers, whatever that means, and it's got a mechanical injection pump. That's that big, goofy spider's web you see up front of steel lines. RF engine and the FE engine are still made in some form to this day. Kind of cool, I guess. Back in the day, you could get it with a turbo. That means there's turbo parts for this engine. That's pretty cool.
Here we go.
You could get it with something called a Comprex pressure wave supercharger. Sounds scientific. 1984 tech. It probably added 7 horsepower and was like a 50-pound cast iron piece of shit. So checking out the engine overall, that injector pump definitely looks complicated as f***, but overall complete and not messed up. Nothing removed, nothing hacked apart. I don't see any wiring crimps anywhere, so good stuff. That's definitely an original hose clamp. Nothing but good signs. Nothing under the hood messed with. Bam! Excellent. Next, I'm gonna poke around and check the fluids. The coolant overflow tank, definitely dry, and the radiator is dry. Checking the brakes, like I expected, the master cylinder is dry. So let's check the oil. Looks okay, I guess. It's blacker than Satan's heart. But it feels like ink. Super watery with like a little bit of carbon in it. At least it has oil. Moving on, gonna check the air filter. Nice. Air filter is new-ish. Another mouse house. Yeah, I'm gonna mask up. I gotta vacuum all this stuff out. Not the end of the world, but huffing their waste can definitely make you sick. I'm not very interested in that. The last thing I need is stupid regrets. Beyond buying a diesel Escort. Let's vacuum everything out and dive into the engine. So this car's been sitting for a long time with basically water for oil. I don't want to break anything internally, so I'm not going to attempt to turn it over with the starter. That would be stupid. I'm going to pull these glow plugs here, which will unseal the combustion chambers and bring compression to 0, so it'll be easier to turn over there. Then I'm going to try to get a socket on the crank and spin it over by hand. I know for my other Escort, my 82, loosen some components and drop the engine down, so we're going to see if that's possible. First thing, I'm going to add some lubricant to the cylinders. Online it says a teaspoon of diesel oil, so that's what I'm doing. Pour it down this little funnel right in, and I'm gonna let it sit for a while, so I'll find something else to do for a minute. Alright, after letting it sit, I'm gonna jack the car up and remove the wheel on this side so I can get at the crank pulley. Let's see what there is to see. Like I knew was gonna happen, the brakes are screwed up. Caliper is completely missing on this side, hoses dangling, no fluids dripping out. It's gotta be completely dry. So let me pull this stupid cover off. This is just like my other Escort, except there's a lot more bullshit in the way down here. You can't get at the crank pulley bolt without pulling the engine. There's no way I'm getting a socket and a breaker bar up there. Look at all this extra crap on the bottom. There's like a coolant crossover tube, some goofy support, and it's all rusty as hell. I'm not gonna take all that stuff off to drop the engine. Need another plan, need another plan, need another plan. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? A little room there, like an inch. It looks like I could get in there with an adjustable wrench. Now, my gut is saying this is gonna be a real pain, but I need to see if this engine rotates before I put too much effort into it. Okay, insane. It's actually moving a little bit. That was really easy. I am hitting a tight spot though. I can rotate in both directions and it gets stuck at this one spot. It's not metal on metal, so I'm not really sure what's happening. It feels like it's just gummed up somewhere, like the dead spot is kind of soft. Maybe it's mouse house debris up against the flywheel getting caught in the transmission housing. Let me take off the inspection plate and fish some of that crap out. Yeah, it's full of bullshit. It is full of bullshit. Clean it out best I can, vacuum up the mess, try again. Damn, same dead spot. Nothing changed. I'm gonna drain all the oil completely and see if it's full of metal. If there's like chunks in there, I can assume that there is something internally broke. Drain the oil, you know, rub a little bit between my little fingies, feel what there is to feel, see what there is to see. Whoopsie. Ha, you see me soak my mini impact? Real professional, awesome. Diesels take a lot of oil. Check the tray. Not seeing anything concerning. It's super duper ultra black with some carbon grit. When I rub it between my fingers, the grit goes away, so it's just dirty. It's just dirty, gross oil. It's something like rust or gunk at the top of one of the cylinders. If I just work it back and forth with the wrench, maybe I can clear it out. So I'm gonna super lube the cylinders with like a ton of WD-40 now. See if I can just dilute whatever's in there. Working it back and forth with a bigger wrench, and you hear that weird sound? It sounds juicy.
Juicy.
It's full of, yeah, I don't know what that is. One of the cylinders is full of something, and it's shooting it out of the glow plug hole, through the air, all over the garage. I keep doing this, I'm gonna force all that gunk out. I'm making progress, something is happening. Alright, I should be able to repeatedly hit the dead spot, squirt out the yuck juice, hit it with more WD-40, until I get a full rotation. rotates. Complete rotation. I'm so psyched. This thing is gonna run. Next thing I gotta do is get the engine turning over with the starter. That way I can get a real rapid rotation with a little bit more compression. Should be able to squeeze everything out. And I want to confirm that the starter works. Ideally, I want to do this with the key. We'll see if I get that far. I gotta remember all the oil is drained out. So I gotta put some oil back in before I keep rotating the engine too much. So yank this old filter out. Put the new filter in. Fill the engine with oil, good to go. I kind of just eyeballed it for now because the car's up on a jack stand, so the engine's not level. Just add some oil, get some oil on the valve train, go from there. Now, when I touch the positive cable, I'm checking, no sparks. That's good. That means it's not immediately drawing a load. It's an indicator that the electrical system is probably okay. If it's shooting sparks immediately with the key out, there's something connected and something on that shouldn't be, and that's kind of a bad sign. I'm gonna try turning the key. Fingers crossed, and nothing. I'm gonna try from the solenoid instead. Jumping the starter solenoid, I get a nice solid click. So it should be working. Nothing from the starter, nothing at all. Kind of indicates that it's fried. A few things I can check first. Pulled the ground cable off. I'm just gonna clean up both ends of the spots where they mount and reinstall it. This ain't rocket science. The copper strands are like a little crunchy sounding, and when I've seen this before is on a cable that had too much current going through it and it kind of fried the copper strands. Glasses on. Safety first. I like having two eyeballs that work. Got a feeling that maybe something got fried. Given that's how the cable feels, I'm not comfortable just throwing it back on. I'm gonna have to check the resistance. Cable's crunchy, but the resistance is really close to zero, so cable's fine. So with the ground cable cleaned up, let me try the key again.
What does that sound?
Whoa, now we got some electric motor starting up that wasn't running before. It kind of freaked me out. It's definitely the vacuum pump. Diesels make some vacuum, but the vacuum isn't strong enough to run accessories. I don't hear any hissing, so there's no vacuum leak. Vacuum pump runs, and the vacuum system is holding pressure. Another victory. While everything's going so well, let's test other electrical systems. Let's see what else we got that works. Headlights working, you can hear the interior buzzer coming on, door open buzzer. With the power flowing, let's just sniff around the engine bay a bit. Let's just sniff and see what there is to smell. Any burning smell could be from chewed up wires grounding out, burned out electric motors. So once you got power flowing through the car, give it the sniff test and just make sure that you're not starting a fire.
Team Hash t-shirts now with 2 sleeves. Order yours immediately.
I'll give you trouble. Pop your piece around the track if you get. It's impossible.
The all-new Team Hash because your head deserves a kick into overdrive.
Collectible stickers from Team Hash. Collect them all before it's too late for all of us.
Bold 3 Detergent Plus.
Starter acting fried, but I don't give up that easy. Multimeter deployed to the battlefield. Alright, I got 12 volts to the starter. Makes sense. The power wire to the starter is always hot. However, I also got 12 volts on the sense wire. That should only be the case when the starter solenoid is engaged and we're trying to start the car, so there's definitely something up with the wiring here. So I disconnected wires at the solenoid, and I tested the issue from a few different angles. I can see that the fender-mounted solenoid is working fine, but I'm still getting 12 volts back from the sense wire. Reads to me like the starter is internally shorted and 12 volts that we're sending through the power wire is just coming back through the sense wire and gotta be fried inside. Let's do a little forensics. If the sense wire is always hot, then the starter should always be engaging. So the starter's fried and the starter was continuously turning. That might be what caused the excessive load on the ground cable and caused those copper wires to get all crunchy. So those issues start to feel kind of linked. I gotta pull the starter. Do what you gotta do, right? That's 3 bolts in the transmission housing and pull the alternator to the side. Can't get the starter out without moving the alternator below the mechanical injector pump, so it's gotta go sideways, then up and out. I'm not getting this big honking starter past that injector pump without moving the alternator first. Cool, moving on. Let's get it on the bench, crack it open, and do some tests. All these connections got marks from arcing. Could be causing a bad connection, but this is way more telling. Looks like someone cranked down on the sense wire post and spun it internally. Bridging the sense wire and this middle plate, which is always hot. That's why the starter would never stop turning. I'm gonna clean up the surfaces anyways because I got it open and I'm gonna test it for shorts, but I kinda know that this thing is dead. I got it out already and I think I was just procrastinating on doing other work. I got no resistance through through the posts on the starter mounted solenoid, so that thing is fried. Time to order up a new starter and move on. It would have been nice to fix this one, but dead starters are common enough. I got more than enough other stuff to worry about. A couple days later, new starter showed up from Rawk Auto, and it is a perfect match. Excellent. And you know I'm getting my core money back, baby. Smash this new starter in place, tighten everything down, definitely fits. The ignition switch in the car seems to be working, so let's try to turn it over by the key. Starter solenoid clicking, but nada. Come on, come on! Gotta jump the fender mounted solenoid. I'll just exercise it a little bit, see what happens. At least I can watch the engine when I'm doing it from up here. Well, it scared me a little bit, but dude, hell yeah, there it goes. Look at it. It turns over. This is incredible. Turning over with the starter. Hell yeah. Victory. So I realized quick that I gassed myself with atomized WD-40 and engine gunk. So I opened the garage doors and got the hell out of there until the air cleared out a bit. And I threw a towel over the engine to contain all that yuck from flying in the air, and it worked. It spins reliably. We are getting closer. I don't need to have the car up in the air anymore, so I'm gonna put this wheel back on, get it off the jack stands, and then now that the engine is level, I can top off the oil and get the oil level correct. I'll button up all the other loose parts here and get it ready to actually try to start it. So I'm gonna put the alternator back in place, get the belt back on, reinstall the glow plugs and the glow plug wiring. Bing, bang, boom, reinstall, got all the same parts, put them back where they came from. I'm gonna purge all the old fuel out of the fuel lines, fuel filter up front, and especially the injection pump. So we got a new fuel filter on here, but I have no clue what's in the tank. I wanna run fresh fuel through the filter, through the injector pump, back out through a return line, and into some catch can that I'm gonna build. Out with the bad fuel, in with the good fuel. Start here by putting the fuel lines back on to connect the pump to the filter, but I'll leave the return line disconnected at the pump. Put some clear hose into the hose coming from the tank. Perfect fit. And I'm collecting bad fuel from the return line in an old peanut butter jar. Thanks to Lizzie for cleaning that out for me. You are an angel. So now I'll use the hand pump on the filter, which is there specifically for this purpose, to prime the pump, to push fresh fuel through the filter, through the pump, out the return line. Check it out, it's working perfectly. And after dumping the bad fuel once, I started getting 90% fresh fuel through the pump. Not perfectly clear like what's in the fuel can, but much, much better. Doesn't look like varnish anymore. Fresh fuel throughout. I'm gonna keep it connected to the fuel can, but let's see if we can get it running. Yeah, nothing. Kind of expected this, but just wanted to go through the paces. So the next thing you got to do on a diesel engine like this that's had air in the fuel lines, which I introduced by disconnecting them, is bleed the injectors. It's just not going to work its way out on its own. So what you got to do is crack each injector line open a little bit, enough to let fuel dribble out. And when cranking the engine, it'll force all the little air bubbles out. What we want to see here coming from each injector is a steady stream of fuel with no bubbles. It's kind of crazy to me that the correct way of doing this is spraying fuel everywhere, but diesels are wild. I kind of like it. So I definitely got some bubbles at first, and once there was no more air, the fuel started to squirt out like little squirt guns. This is perfect. This is exactly what we want. Now I'll close the injectors back up, try to start it again. So I'm kind of running out of stuff to fix at this point, so fingers crossed here. Took a moment to fill the radiator, but I was definitely procrastinating. I was just a little nervous about actually starting it. I'm not gonna let it run enough right now for that to matter, but topped off the radiator, made it nice. Okay, let's see what happens.
I'll just do it. No big deal, just...
Did you see that? It popped off. I had to keep my foot down giving it fuel to keep it running, but it was running there for a second. You could hear that super loud hissing. I killed it right away. Something was wrong. I knew what I forgot. I never checked if the exhaust was plugged. So I come around back to see what there is to see, and what do you know? Look at that. I've never seen this in person before. Completely plugged with dry mud and rocks. Dude, look at all the dirt coming out. What the We've been climbing the mountain, and there is no question now. This thing will run. Step after step of progress. Everything checking out every step of the way. Let's make it happen. It fired right off with fuel from the can. Oh my god, it's incredible. And you can see fuel is flowing through the return line. The fuel system is working exactly how it should. This is incredible. It runs. It runs. It runs. It runs. Okay. Oh my god. Wow. That's amazing. You can see the engine is heating up for the first time in forever. Smoking like a barbecue. I think I was like smoking meat in here or something, but it smells disgusting. Wow. It's running. I'm blown away. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Off of a fuel can is just a little imperfect. I'm gonna go the extra mile here. I want it running off the tank. I know when all the electrics came on, I could tell that the fuel sender was actually working. But if the fuel in the tank looks anything like the fuel that I forced out of the injector pump, it's gonna be nothing but varnish, and I wanna get it out of there. Just trying to get this thing running so I can move it around my yard. And when the time comes, I'll put a new tank in. I gotta do my best to drain the tank through the fuel lines that go up to the engine bay. Now, I know how to do this, but this is cheap and quick, but not super safe. I don't recommend you try this at home. Honestly, I'm gonna kind of break some rules here. I'm gonna lightly pressurize the fuel tank through the return line and force most of the bad fuel up through the sender line. Now, there's a few things that can go wrong here, so I gotta be super careful. One, overpressurizing a fuel tank, it's gonna see forces that it never otherwise sees, and you could pop a seam, you could pop a weld, cause your fuel tank to leak, which is a huge bummer. Two, if you atomize fuel by sending the air in there too quickly and creating bubbles, you can create an explosive situation. You basically made your fuel tank into a bomb. So don't do either of these. I'm an idiot. I'm gonna do them. I'm going low and slow here, and I'm not even gonna seal the rubber hose and the blowgun, so I have a lot of air leaking on my side. Little baby forces, minuscule forces here. It's working how I expected it to. I'm getting fuel out of the tank, and what was in the tank is actually better than I expected. There's no gunk, there's no particulate, there's no little rust pieces. Tank isn't as bad as I thought. One more time, don't try this at home. If something explodes, that's on you, man. All right, let's top it off with fresh fuel. I was getting quite hopeful here. After nothing but a bunch of victories, I said, why not check out the brakes? Yeah, let me show you what happened. My confidence was low, I was gonna get anything done, but you know, I wanna know what's coming up. Let's pull these wheels off and check out the brakes, front and back. Now, I know the caliper up front is already removed, and I expected missing drum brake parts. Let's find out what we gotta buy, or borrow from the race car. Everything here is super crusty. I'm not touching any of that tonight. Hoses are dry as hell. It's gonna spring a leak for me just looking at it. All right, brakes are out. This thing's got no brakes. It needs a whole brake system. It needs hoses, lines, wheel cylinders, caliper's got to be rebuilt. I bet the master cylinder needs love. It's not scary work, it's not happening right now. Whoa, check out that little spider. Yeah, take off, little buddy, find a new home, get out of here. Now, this one is spinning too freely, so it's got to be missing shoes and stuff. Bearings look fine. I'll wash them and repack them. Yeah, there's nothing in here. Okay, other side. Interesting. Whoa. That looks new. I wonder what someone was up to back here. And this one won't move at all. Yeah, it's gonna have all the hardware. I'm prying off the drum against the shoes. Check it out. This one's gonna have both shoes, and it does, and it's got all the hardware, and it is frozen solid. Brakes are a mess. Project for part 2. All right, let's go. Let's wrap this thing up. I want to put the fuel system back together and get it running off the tank. I know it's gonna start. We know it's gonna start. I just want to see it happen. I definitely introduced some air, reconnecting the lines, putting the fuel system back together. So I gotta crack the injectors again, bleed them again. I'm getting good at this. Crack the lines, hit the starter, purge the pump, seal the lines, and make it sing. Cranking it up. Boom! Starts right up. Running off the tank. Pulling fuel from the tank. This is beautiful. She's ready to roar again. Some icing on the cake. I'm going to drop it in gear and watch things spin around. Look, it's spinning. Look, it's spinning. Look, it's spinning. It works. All right, it at least goes into first gear, which is great, but I shouldn't have been messing with the steering because as soon as I did, something on the rack and pinion let loose and it puked out all the power steering fluid onto the floor. It looked like a murder scene. There was a big puddle of blood underneath when I stepped away. Kitty litter to the rescue. Let's check out the alternator too while I got this thing running. Let's put a multimeter on the battery here and see what there is to see. We want 13 to 14 volts, and yep, that's what we got. So the alternator's working. Beautiful. Something I don't have to rebuy. Now that thing looked crusty as hell, so I'm actually surprised. I let it idle for a while, burn off some of the cake oil and mouse mess, and it was smoking and stinking, but it is alive. It's alive, man. It's running.
It's alive, it's alive!
So checking out the gauges on the dash, we got RPM, we got battery power, cooling is working, and the fuel sender is actually working too, which is incredible. If you're not familiar with vintage fuel senders, it's a little retostat. There's like a tiny little wire wrapped around to make a resistor. You get a little bit of water in the tank and that thing's gonna rust away immediately. Approaching a human hair thinness. Very, very delicate. So to have a working fuel sender is extremely rare. The temp sensor is working, but I got it up to temp where the fan should have come on, and the fan did not come on. So the radiator fan is busted, and that's something I gotta look into. So that's it. Mission accomplished. Thing is running. Complete fuel system, good to go, starts every time. It's beautiful. I never done that before. This thing was locked up, not rotating, pulled out of a barn, and now it's running. I did find a bunch of other work that I got to do on the power steering, the cooling, the brakes, but I've done all this work before. I got an 82, almost exactly the same. I'm not scared of any of this. The hardest thing, honestly, is deciding what order I want to do things in and how far I want to take it, because you can just take a car completely apart and try to make it mint, and that's stupid. I want to enjoy this thing. For example, if I want to make swapping the rack and pinion out easier, I got to take off the exhaust. I take off the exhaust, I can access fuel lines and brake lines and drop the fuel tank easier. What am I doing in what order and why? I'm thinking about other wacky stuff I can do to this car. Turbo parts you can get for this engine. Comprex supercharger. Wouldn't it be cool to run it on French fry oil and install like a cooking oil fuel system?
Keep your eyes on your fries.
I want to hear what you guys think about this car. I want to hear what you think I should do next. I want to hear your experience. I know a lot of people grew up with these things. I couldn't be happier. The thing runs. Fixing a barn find off my bucket list. That's it for now. Thanks for checking in. I'll see you later.